Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL eye test for Game Week 2, where we look back at this weekend's Premier League matches from an FPL perspective. And FPL-wise, it was a really interesting game week, but also a really lackluster game week for a lot of people. Personally, I had some good things happen to me, so I'm doing pretty well compared to most other content creators, I feel like, at least. But anyways, we're not here to talk about me or my rank, because that's not really something to talk about either this early in the game. But let's go into the games that were played this weekend, with the first one on Friday between West Ham and Chelsea. And this just basically set off game week 2 on like a pretty strange start, because we straight away, before the match even started, we had news that Palmer was not ready to play. He was in the warm-ups, tried to get through it to be able to play in the game, but he did not get it in time. He did not make it in time, basically, to be part of the match. And that changed a lot of things. First of all, in terms of FPL, it changed captaincy from a lot of people who had Captain Palmer would now get Salah as the vice-captain. Had to wait for Monday for that to happen. And also, Estevao came in for Chelsea, and he looked absolutely amazing. But another player that looked even more amazing for Chelsea was Joao Pedro, who got, two goals, 1 assist, or 1 goal, 2 assists? Either way, he got a lot of points from not too much expected goal involvement, as you can see there. He's not even in the top 3 for Chelsea in expected goal involvement. He was just really good in the box, found the right spaces, had some really nice headers as well. He did really well on both his goal and both of his assists as well. Like, his first assist was amazing. It was a cross to Pedro Neto on the back post, and that's something that is repeatable in FPL as well. But I think the corners are more, I think corner goals in general are more just happenstance. Like, you don't really know who's going to score. It's a bit random who gets to the ball, basically. So I'm not sure if that is super sustainable for Joao Pedro. But anyways, he had a really central role for Chelsea with Palmer out. And he was really important for them, as they basically trashed West Ham. Like, this was the first, I say first trashing of the season, but Man City did beat Wolves quite handedly. But this time around, Chelsea were just all over West Ham. But West Ham started off scoring the goal early with Paquetá, deleting the clean sheet for Sanchez and other Chelsea defenders. But from there onwards, it was pretty much all Chelsea. West Ham did have a goal disallowed as well, really close, or pretty close, where Todibo was offside barely at 1-1, where West Ham could have gone up 2-1. It would have been a different game, but I think West Ham just are that bad and Chelsea are just that good. So I think regardless, Chelsea probably would have ended up winning this game after all. So yeah, Chelsea, amazing. Joao Pedro getting a lot of points. Estevao is the main guy, though. As you can see, he won the Man of the Match award because he was absolutely amazing. He's a 6.5 winger in the game in FPL. And I think he's going to be a starter for Chelsea sooner rather than later. I feel like he's the best winger at Chelsea, possibly slightly below Pedro Neto, but he's also obviously young, so he's going to be a bit up and down. But I think he is going to be the starter for Chelsea eventually. I think Gittins hasn't really proven much so far. And then, yeah, I think Estevao is the best option that they do have. So, yeah, Chelsea looking amazing in general. Scored a lot of goals. Scored from 3 set pieces, I think, which basically it says something about Chelsea's set piece prowess, but also about how bad West Ham were defensively, and especially on set pieces. Hermansen just, flat out sucks, as I've written in the main takeaway. He's had 2 of the worst games for a goalkeeper I've ever seen to start a career in a place. So he was pretty highly regarded at Leicester, but so far for West Ham, he's been absolutely atrocious, especially the 2 corner goals in the second half. He was just, awful on both of them. Another awful defender for West Ham was Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who is quite popular in FPL as well. I fear for those of you guys that have him that he might be dropped, because West Ham have Kyle Walker-Peters, who is an outstanding Premier League right back, on the bench just waiting to come on. And he's not going to replace Diouf, who's the left back for West Ham, because Diouf still looks really amazing. So he's probably going to replace Wan-Bissaka, who fell asleep several times on the back post and allowed Chelsea to get some easy goals in this match. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see Wan-Bissaka dropped, and I think he's someone that you should potentially consider to sell. And that's basically around the board when it comes to West Ham. I think most people that own players from West Ham should look to sell them. I think the one exception is probably going to be Diouf. Just because he is looking pretty attacking and pretty good. He also is close to taking free kicks potentially, because when Ward-Prowse took a free kick for West Ham, he took it obviously because he is one of the better free kick takers of all time in the Premier League. But right next to him, close to him, ready to take it if Ward-Prowse was not on the pitch, was El Hadji Malik Diouf. So I think he has some upside at least. Got an assist as well for the Paqueta goal, so he is the one exception. But other than that, West Ham just have terrible players, and obviously if you concede 5 goals, 1 assist isn't going to help you much. You're still going to end up with 3 points like Diouf did in this game. But yeah, Chelsea is the main story. They have a lot of good options. Joao Pedro, especially if Palmer is out. We have to see how long Palmer is out. We don't really know yet if he's going to be out for game week 3 only, if he's going to be out for longer, or if he's going to be back after international break, or even if he's going to be back for game week 3 against Fulham. We'll have to wait and see. But he's also someone that you could potentially sell. Like, there are some other good standout options. But I think I would be a bit cautious, especially if he's healthy and ready to play. I'd be a bit cautious with selling Palmer right before Fulham at home and Brentford away. I feel like those are 2 pretty good matches in general. When it comes to Joao Pedro, I mentioned this in another video already. I'm not 100% sure about his viability for the next few game weeks. The next game week, I think, against Fulham, he's going to be great. But game week 4 is right after international break. He's going to travel most likely. He's going to be picked for the Brazil squad. That might actually be out yet, or out at the time of this recording. I'm going to have to check that. But if he's in the Brazil squad, which is likely because he's been amazing lately, then he will play 4 days before he returns for game week 3, or game week 4, I should say, and might be out for that game week, like he did last year when he played for Brighton. He came back after international break, played 45 minutes in a game, and didn't play in game week 4 after like a million people had brought him in, which could happen again. Like, he is going to be a popular transfer in as well in FPL. But for game week 3, he's going to look good. Game week 4, maybe he'll miss out, but again, last season, what I didn't mention in the free hit video yesterday is the fact that he did actually have a knock after that international break as well. That was at least like the official reason. So maybe it wasn't jet lag, maybe it was just him getting injured, and maybe he'll stay away from injuries this time. But either way, Chelsea have, like, after those 2 fixtures, they have some pretty tough matches after that. So yeah, if you have Joao Pedro, of course, keep him. You've done amazing so far. He got you like 15 points this game week, so that's fantastic. But for me, I'm a bit more wait and see. I'm free hitting in game week 3. If you didn't know already, I made a video about that yesterday, where I'm going to have Joao Pedro for sure in that squad, but I'm not sure long term if he's going to be fantastic. Also, the goals that he scored were a bit like I said, happenstance from corners and stuff, but he's still an amazing player. Especially if Palmer is out, he's going to be more central. He's going to be on penalties. He's going to be a fantastic option. So Palmer, his injury is going to change a lot of things in FPL, and it changed a lot of things in game week 2, as we saw as well, because the captaincy swung from Palmer, who could have had a massive haul if he had played there today as well, or on Friday as well. Using that word again, sorry. But yeah, but he didn't play, so we'll see what happens with Chelsea going forward. Yeah, that was that game basically. Let's move on to the next fixture, and that is going to be Man City against Spurs, which was a really interesting game in general. A lot of people had basically coined Man City as the new champions after game week 1. They looked amazing against Wolves. Tijani Rangers looked amazing. He was a bit more anonymous in this game. I'll get more into that later. But Spurs just set up perfectly, and I think Man City set up badly, because Man City did 2 changes. Marmoush and Cherki came in. As you can see, they were top of non-penalty expected goal involvement for City behind Haaland. But they both had kind of bad games. Marmoush was in really good positions, had a really good chance to score after a really nice setup from Haaland, but he didn't manage to take his chance, and he was kind of wasteful in general, and didn't really have the best game, even though he was in good positions. I think if he's in form, he's going to be amazing for Man City, but he was not in this game, and I think that sort of made it difficult for Man City. But Man City started this game actually much better than Spurs. They were all over them. It looked like they were likely to score, but then Ait Nouri got injured and had to be subbed off, and after that the game kind of changed a little bit. Spurs also got their first goal. It was first ruled out for offside, but it turned out after a VAR review that they were actually onside, and the goal stood. It was Johnson once again scoring in the second game week in a row, and Richarlison getting the assist. Another point return from Richarlison and Spurs. So yeah, Spurs, however, they set up with 4 at the back, which was surprising to a lot of people. People expected them to set up with 5 at the back, which is usually what Thomas Frank does in these high-stakes games, as we saw against PSG in the Super Cup. But they started with a back 4 this time around, which meant that Pedro Porro wasn't a wing back, which was something that a lot of people were hoping for. But at least for anyone that had Spurs defenders or got Spurs defenders from the Palmer injury, which is another basically change from the Palmer injury, you got a clean sheet, because Spurs managed to keep the clean sheet in the end, because City kind of struggled a bit more later in the game. I think Spurs were the better side in the second half, but City had another huge chance in the second half as well, when Haaland basically got the ball gifted to him but missed the pass in front of goal. So yeah, Haaland was Actually, he looked pretty good. He could have easily had like a goal, 2 assists. Like he was close to getting a lot of points, but he blanked in this game for anyone that had done the change after game week 1. But I still think Haaland looks like an amazing prospect for you if you have him still in your team. He's someone that I'm going to have in my free hit in game week 3 for sure, because he looks really good. When it comes to Spurs assets, I think Romero, he got the DEFCON points this time around. Romero with 10 DEFCONs this game. He is looking really good for 5.0, I think. I think in general, anyone with Spurs defenders are looking pretty good right now. They've kept 2 clean sheets. Kind of lucky both games, I feel like. I feel like they could have conceded in both games, but they have been pretty solid as well defensively. And especially in this game as well, when they set up to not concede, they looked pretty good in this game. So yeah, Spurs, really impressive. Sarr is the standout player as well, not in terms of FPL that much, but he is someone that was really good in this game and basically cost us the first goal especially. I think he was the one that headed it through to Richarlison, but on the second goal, he was also doing the pressure, got the ball, or Richarlison got the ball from the pressure, and then Palhinha scored a goal for Spurs to make it 2-0 there, which again could have been easily been another assist for Richarlison. So yeah, in general, Spurs are flying so far. 2 wins out of 2. They beat Burnley, which was a bit like wait and see, but now they beat Man City, and people are actually taking notice of Spurs as a potential like top 4 contender now. Maybe. We'll see what happens with Spurs. But yeah, interesting game all around. City really hurt by the Ait-Nouri injury. We'll have to wait for news on that as well, if he's going to be back. But in general, I feel like City also looked like decent, but City going down and City going up is a bit of a different story. Like if they take the lead in the game, like we saw against Wolves, they just take over and they look amazing. But in this game, they conceded first and they sort of looked worse after that in this game, basically. So yeah, some issues for City. They also have some new people coming in as well, with both Rodri and Foden coming on pretty late in this game. Doku also came in, which made it easier for Reinders, I think. With Marmoush out and Doku in, Reinders gets to be more in those spaces closer to the goal, which we saw in game week 1. So I think he is kind of dependent on which lineup City have, Reinders, for how effective he's going to be. When Doku plays, I think he's going to be amazing. And when Marmoush plays, Marmoush is basically going to take up his spots offensively. He's going to be more defensively minded. We'll also see what happens with Rodri, see how he looks for City. He had actually a pretty good heading chance pretty early, Rodri. And he's someone that I've talked about in preseason as a potential game breaker, because I think he could get a lot of DEFCON points. I think he can get some goals and assists. The last time he played a full season, he got like 9 goals and 11 assists or something like that. And he also got a couple DEFCON points on top of that. And before that, in previous seasons before that, he had a lot of DEFCON points in general. So yeah, he's someone that is a sneaky good option as well at 6.4 in FPL. So yeah, he's someone to take note of. But yeah, that is pretty much that game as well for City against Spurs. And let's go on to the next games, I should say, because we have 2. One is Brentford against Aston Villa, and this was very interesting because Brentford looked awful in game week 1, and Aston Villa didn't look good in game week 1 either, but we did expect them to turn up when they played against the worst side. But Brentford were a lot better this game. They had some players coming back or coming into the team. Damsgaard back from the birth of his child from game week 1. He was back in the lineup now for game week 2. He looked amazing, had a couple of runs and stuff in the box that were really, really good for Brentford. And Dango Ouattara, the new signing, came in and looked amazing also. So yeah, Dango is 6.0 only, and that's sort of the price point I expected Schade to be this season for Brentford, because he was someone that I was eyeing as a potential good pick for this season for Brentford. But now Dango is at that price, 6.0, really nice price for a winger at Brentford. He's basically taking over the spot from Mbeumo, and he filled in perfectly in this game against Aston Villa. Scored a goal early. Damsgaard had a goal ruled out as also, but yeah, Brentford looked on it from the start of this game. Aston Villa, again, looked really, not that good in general. Second half, I think Aston Villa looked a bit better. Rodgers got a bit more centrally because they subbed off Onana and put on Daniel Malen to be on the wing. And Rodgers got to be more central, and he looked better in that role. And I think that's going to help him going forward if they're going to play that team going forward. They have Guessan as well, who's come in for Aston Villa. He is someone that is going to be important for them. I think he's going to help Rodgers as well be in a better position to score. So it's going to be interesting to see. But Watkins, 0.63 non-expected goal moment here, or non-penalty expected goal moment. I don't really think he did much in this game. I'm not sure where he got those numbers from particularly, because again, he looked a bit lackluster, Watkins. But I think long term, he has still really good fixtures. I think the opening fixtures are kind of worse than what we expected from Aston Villa. We had such high hopes for him after preseason, but I think this is once again another piece of proof that preseason doesn't really matter that much. When the stakes are high and people take everything seriously, things changes. So yeah, I think Aston Villa, I've kind of struggled. They had the first game against Newcastle, which was a tough game. I think Newcastle are a pretty tough team to break down. We're going to get to Newcastle, and they looked impressive again in game week 2. And then second game week, they played Brentford, who sort of had a lot of things to avenge after a really terrible game week 1. And also with a lot of new players back at their home ground, they wanted to make a statement. So I think it was a tough game. But Aston Villa were closer in the second half. I think they looked better and better as the game went along. So maybe they'll be good pretty soon in FPL. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, the other big story from Brentford is the fact that everyone got DEFCON points, basically. It's just too many to list. Like, I only have 4 spots in the graphics, so I have to just list the 3 most important players in terms of DEFCON, which was Dango, who got 16 defensive contributions, which is crazy for like a winger/attacker type of player. So he got DEFCON points on top of the goal and bonus and everything, so he looked amazing. Damscore as well. Another great game from him. He is looking even better than last season when he sort of had like a super breakout season for Brentford. He looks super attacking and offensive in this game, and yeah, is looking like a really good FPL option. Had a goal disallowed, like I said, which was kind of, I don't know, Martinez sort of got backed into, but yeah, it was a bit soft, I think, to change that. But he got DEFCON points also with 15 defensive contributions. And then Collins had 13 defensive contributions. He's another player that a lot of managers have looked at as a potential DEFCON monster, and he got his defensive contribution points this time around. Also, I think Coyote got defensive contribution points, the right back for Brentford. He looked really attacking and amazing as well. He is someone that is, someone that you should take note of for FPL if Brentford are actually good. But Brentford, they have a really good game week in game week 3, a good fixture there against Sunderland, which we'll get to pretty soon. But after that, they have pretty tough fixtures. But I do think Dango is good value. I do think Coyote as well is looking like good value. Damscore could be a good value pick as well. Thiago up front was a bit selfish, could have passed a better placed teammate in this game. But he looks pretty good and is on penalties most likely for Brentford. Coyote got defensive contribution points. Van den Berg got defensive contribution points for the second time in a row, I think. So he could be someone to take note of for defensive contributions. He's 4.5, I think. And then another player that I can't remember got defensive contribution points. But again, I tried to list the most FPL relevant players there to talk about in general. But yeah, Brentford, impressive game from Brentford. Not impressive for Aston Villa, so I get why people will want to sell Rodgers and Watkins, but I think they will come good eventually, especially with the fixtures that they do have. They do have Burnley and Sunderland as well, which we'll talk about pretty soon. They do have those fixtures coming up. But their next 2 fixtures, Palace and Everton away, Palace at home and Everton away, aren't the best either, so I do get it if you want to sell them. But I think I have Rodgers myself, and I might double up with Watkins for game week 5 when they have those really nice fixtures against Burnley and Sunderland, because I do think eventually they'll come good. I think they were kind of slow starters last season also, Aston Villa, especially Rodgers. I think he had like 1 return in the first 5 games, but by the end of the season, he had like almost 10 goals and 10 assists each. So yeah, I think you just have to be a bit patient with Aston Villa. Personally, I think there's bigger fish to fry in terms of your transfers, but yeah, I do get it if you want to sell them, especially if that can make you get some other players that you really want. So yeah, especially Watkins, because he's a bit pricey. That's why I went with Rodgers myself, because I didn't really want to put that much money into Aston Villa, because I thought they had good opening fixtures, but the really prime fixtures are from game week 5 onwards, which is where I might go double up myself personally still. But yeah, going on to Burnley against Sunderland, the battle between the 2 promoted sides, a match that usually ends 0-0 actually, and I think a lot of people were hoping for a 0-0 game here, because a lot of people had defensive players from especially Burnley, with both Estev and Dubravka. Some people went with both of them, some people went with one of them, and either way, if you went with Burnley players, you won in this game because they managed to keep a clean sheet against Sunderland. I think after Sunderland won the first opening match against West Ham and Burnley lost against Spurs, people were expecting Sunderland to beat Burnley. I sort of did that myself as well, personally. I picked Adingra for my free hits suggestion for Game Week 2, and he didn't really have the best game for Sunderland in general. But Sunderland did have some pretty good chances to score early on. Mayenda had a really good chance before Ballard got injured, who, as I've written in the main takeaway there, they lost their MVP in Ballard, who got 17 points, was the highest scoring player in Game Week 1. And then he played only like 15 minutes, or even 10 minutes, I think, in Game Week 2 before he got injured and had to be subbed off. He is a bit injury prone, so that's not really too surprising. But he was close to getting an assist for Mayenda, who had a massive chance early on. Then Talby had a really good chance as well. That's what you can see from the non-penalty expected goal numbers there. Mayenda and Talby had one chance each to score early on for Sunderland, who could have easily taken the lead in this game. Kind of the opposite of last week when West Ham were better than Sunderland in the first half, and then Sunderland turned it on in the second half. This game was kind of different. Sunderland had the big early chances, and then Burnley took over. And they actually scored a goal in the first half with Lyle Foster, but that was also disallowed for basically a free kick reason. And I think it's kind of strange to see both in the Brentford Aston Villa game and in the Burnley Sunderland game. There were disallowed goals after like free kick potential situations, and we had another free kick potential situation in the West Ham game with Paqueta being run over. He didn't get anything. They didn't change that, but they changed it in Brentford and Burnley's case when they scored and disallowed those goals. But yeah, Lyle Foster, a former sort of FPL cult hero, I guess. He was good for like a couple game weeks 2 seasons ago, but he's actually played for Burnley and been a decent looking player so far. But for Burnley, the standouts were both Josh Cullen and especially Jayden Anthony. Jayden Anthony looked amazing in this game. Cullen as well, really nice first goal from Cullen, the West Ham prodigy back in the day. He is the captain now for Burnley, and he's a really important player for Burnley, and scored and assisted. Both him and Jayden Anthony got a goal and assist each. 2 really nice goals in general. So yeah, Cullen curled it in for the first goal, and Jayden Anthony basically ran past the goalkeeper and scored for the second goal. So yeah, really nice game from Burnley in general. Esteve got his clean sheet, got subbed off early, so I was expecting them to concede and Esteve to get the clean sheet points and not Dubravka, but they managed to keep the clean sheet all the way through because Sunderland aren't really the best. Going forward, they didn't really create much XG in the first game either, so I think their attacking threat isn't that big. So I think you can actually target Sunderland when it comes to clean sheets in FPL this season. But yeah, 2-0 for Burnley. Interesting result. We'll see how it develops between these two teams, and we'll see how good the newly promoted teams are, because it's really hard to gauge after 2 game weeks where they've sort of been the opposite. Like they had 1 good game week and 1 bad game week each, all 3 of the promoted teams, as we'll get to with Leeds as well pretty soon. But first, we have to talk about Bournemouth and Wolves, which was an interesting game. I think Bournemouth are the better team, and they played at home, so an expected win in that regard. But I think Wolves had some issues, mostly with someone getting red carded in the second half, namely Totti Gomez, who got a red card when Evan Nelson was on his way through. But Bournemouth were the better team in this side, or this match, I should say. Wolves had some chances, but as you can see from the expected goals, not that much. They had a pretty good heading chance from Strand Larsen, who once again had to blank for this game week. But yeah, Wolves look still pretty solid defensively. They managed to only concede 1 goal despite being down 1 man for almost a half of this game, so that was interesting. But more interesting for FPL reasons is Semenyo, who was amazing in game week 1, had 2 goals against Liverpool, and in this game week he could have had a monster haul as well. With first, he had an assist, really unselfish play, passed it out to Tavernier, who shot it, and it hit Agbadou and went into the goal. It was still counted as a goal and still counted as an assist for Semenyo. Semenyo also, right after that, had another huge chance to score on the back post, hit the bar, like on the underside of the bar and out. So it was really close to scoring and having another haul and being the most transferred in player ever almost, just because he's looked amazing so far. He looked like he stepped up another gear. He was really good for Bournemouth in general, had another shooting chance as well in this game. And he just looks really good for Bournemouth altogether. But yeah, we have 3 defensive contribution monsters potentially here, or at least 2 in Senesi and Agbadou, who were really good for that last season. Both of them managed to get defensive contribution points. Agbadou had 14 defensive contributions, and Senesi had 14 himself too. So Senesi has had defensive contribution points in both games so far, and they kept a clean sheet this time. Bournemouth, defensively, they looked a bit better, but Wolves, I think it's more about the opposition. Wolves have not looked that good offensively. They did start with John Arias this game, and he had some nice, interesting involvements. They had a couple decent-ish chances, Wolves. Nothing major really. Arias had a decent chance, Manetti had a decent chance, and Strand Larsen had a decent chance, but nothing major as you can see from the numbers there. From the expected goals. But yeah, I think Wolves in general just really struggle offensively without Cunha and Ait-Nouri. They have lost their two best offensive players, and that shows. They are struggling to score, and I think that's another team that you can target for clean sheets. We have Everton playing against Wolves next game week, where Tarkowski could be really good for both defensive contributions and clean sheet in that game, as we'll see with Everton, as they kept the clean sheet this game week also. So yeah, Semenyo is the big story again from Bournemouth. I think he looks amazing. He's someone that I'm looking to get in as soon as possible. I might even use him on my free hit in Game Week 3. And yeah, once they have really good fixtures, I think they play Leeds in like Game Week 5 or Game Week 4. I can't remember exactly which game week, but that is probably a good jumping on point for Semenyo for me. So he is someone that I'm looking to bring in for sure. Evan Nilsson was also put through and got the red card on Wolves. He could easily scored if he was able to shoot there. So he's also someone to take note of for Bournemouth. And their defense as well looked good. Petrovic, 4.5, probably the best 4.5 goalkeeper currently, I think. And in defense, they have both Senesi, who's a bit of a defensive contribution monster, and they have Treffert on the left back, who is basically like Kirkus last season. So it's kind of a bit like Hausen and Kirkus, just 2.0 with Senesi and Treffert. So take note of that for future game weeks also. But yeah, that was that game. Bournemouth won 1-0 in the end. Deserved win after all. They were the better team between these two teams, and they were also a man up for most of the game. So managed to get 3 points there, Bournemouth. Let's move on to Arsenal against Leeds, which was just another thrashing. The storyline after game week 1 from both of these teams were pretty different. Leeds got a huge win against Everton, where they made Everton look pretty weak and not that good offensively. Arsenal had a bit of a lackluster. They did manage to win, but they did have a bit of a lackluster performance against Man United when they won 1-0. Didn't really create much and didn't look that good offensively. But in this game, Arsenal just showed that they do have another gear, and they do have a lot of good attacking assets now. Like as I've written in the main takeaway, attacking depth paying dividends now, because both Saka and Ødegaard got injured through this match, and Arsenal still look dominant without them and with them, and they have so many new good options here. Mainly Victor Gyökeres. I have to do the celebration now myself because he scored 2 goals. He was my captain. That's why I had a pretty good game week compared to most other people. I got 57 points in the end, which I'm happy about. And most of that is down to Gyökeres just getting a lot of points. I also got points from Gabriel defensively because Arsenal just keep a lot of clean sheets. That's what I expected. He's not a defensive contribution type of guy. You can see Arsenal, no defensive contributions from them, which is expected when they win 5-0 against Leeds. That's usually what happens with Arsenal. They don't really get that many defensive contribution points, but they do get a lot of clean sheet points. And also when it comes to defensive assets from Arsenal, Calafiori has gotten 13 points in each game so far in Game Week 1 and Game Week 2. He's been amazing. Timber didn't play in Game Week 1, but he was back for Game Week 2 and scored, 24 points, which I think is like the 3rd highest from a defender ever in FPL. 2 goals, 1 assist, 2 goals from corners. He's really good at like finding the right spaces in the box as well. So I don't think it's like completely random. Of course, it is a bit of randomness when it comes to corner goals in general. I think Gabriel is going to score a couple this season, but Timber is someone that has really good instincts in general. So yeah, he both had 2 goals from corners. He also had an assist where he passed to Saka, who scored a really nice goal. Saka was someone that was really unlucky. Anyone that has Saka scored a really nice goal could have easily gotten more points as the game went along, because Arsenal were just basically dominating Leeds throughout this game. So yeah, Leeds, I think the main issue for me is who's scoring the goals. It is a bit harsh. They played Everton, who is decent defensively at least, and now Arsenal, who are outstanding defensively and also really tough to play against in general. So yeah, my question with Leeds is just who's scoring the goals. They needed a penalty in the first game to score. Second game, they didn't really create much at all. They had a decent chance with Stroke early on where Raya made a big save, but that was basically their only huge chance in this game. So yeah, Leeds, another team I think you can target when it comes to clean sheets, but I do think they will be pretty defensively solid in regular games, so they don't face Arsenal. But I think this is just another warning from Arsenal that they are not to be messed with. They are sort of like treated as a banter club now. Everyone says that Arteta has passed it and gone and like he should leave and doesn't win trophies and all that stuff, but I picked Arsenal as my Premier League winners for a reason. I do think they're a really good side, and I'm really excited to see them play against Liverpool now, which is going to be without most likely Ødegaard, but especially Saka is going to be out for sure. So that's going to be interesting to see with Arsenal. But they do have a lot of new talents. I mentioned Gyökeres. Eberechi Eze is obviously a new guy who came in and was presented before the match. He was actually like announced before the match and was presented on the pitch before the match started, gave them a big boost, and they managed to score, or they managed to get a lot of goals in this game and without Eze. But now he's going to be able to step in for Game Week 3. He's played in preseason, played in Game Week 1, so he's going to be ready to play. He's going to be needed with Ødegaard out, especially if Ødegaard's out, but also if Saka is out, or with Saka out because he is injured. They also have Max Daumann, have to mention him, the second youngest debutant in the Premier League all time, just behind Waneri, who also came on and looked pretty good. So Arsenal just have a lot of good assets now, both in terms of the players that they brought in. They also brought in Subimendi, which means that they have Marino on the bench. They have Havertz when he comes back from injury. They have brought in Madueke. They have Daumann and Waneri coming in. They have Gyökeres. They have Eze. Like, they have just so many more players to choose from now. Martinelli, Trossard, Gabriel Jesus eventually later this season. I think he's out still until like New Year's, but they just have a lot of good attacking assets now, Arsenal. They don't have to rely on the main three like they did back in the day with Ødegaard, Saka, and Martinelli, and then whoever they had as striker, whether that's Jesus or someone else. Now they have a lot of assets. So even without Saka and Ødegaard, they have more than enough firepower to give some problems for Liverpool in Game Week 3. So I think that's going to be interesting. Daumann as well looked really good coming on. Won the penalty for Gyökeres, which I'm going to be forever grateful for because I had Gyökeres as captain. But Daumann looked amazing and got the penalty. And at first it looked like he sort of dived, but looking at the penalty like closer, you could actually see Anton Stach, or however you pronounce his name. He did actually stamp on his foot, so it was actually a penalty, even though it didn't look like it in at first glance for me. I thought Daumann was just like sort of doing the old thing of like hooking the leg to the Leeds defender. He did actually get stamped on. It was a penalty, I think. But Daumann looked amazing. He's 4.5 in FPL. I think that's really interesting if he starts getting playing time. He's only 15 years old and like 230 something days, I think. So he's super young, obviously, but he could become the youngest Premier League goal scorer of all time. That's very likely. I think he has like a year to score before the record from James Vaughan from like 2005 is not going to be able to be broken anymore for him. Sorry. But he's looking amazing, and for 4.5 that could be really interesting, especially if Saka is out for longer. But it seems like Saka's going to be out for like 4 weeks, so we're looking at probably, I'm imagining that he's going to be out now for Game Week 3, of course. He's going to be out for the international break, and I think he's going to be out for Game Week 4 as well. But then he's probably going to be back for Game Week 5 when they play Man City, and then they have Newcastle Game Week after that. So a lot of big games for Arsenal. They play Nottingham Forest in Game Week 4 also. So a lot of matches that are of high importance for Arsenal, and they really need to make a statement in one of the easier games now against Leeds, and they did, and they rewarded some other FPL managers like me with Gyökeres, and someone with Saka got less points, kind of unlucky, but he's going to come back better and stronger eventually, Saka. But I think if you have Saka, he looks like a likely candidate to sell, not only because of the injury, but also because of the tough matches that Arsenal do have. But and also with Eze coming in, who's 7.5, he's going to be a really good option for Game Week 3, even like against Liverpool. Like, I wouldn't mind going from Saka to Eze if you want to keep that Arsenal spot for later on in the season. But I think this is a good jumping off point for Arsenal because they have tougher fixtures going forward now. But yeah, 5-0 win. Dominant. Leeds didn't really do much. 0.17 XG, not much. Arsenal defense is still amazing. Leeds offense not as good. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future in FPL. Moving on to 2 more games. Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest, which was an interesting game. 2 teams that are sort of like mid-table plus. It feels like they could potentially challenge for like top spots and challenge for Europe. But I think Palace were the better team this game. Speaking of Eze, actually, this was the first game without Eze, or technically the second game because they played against Fredrikstad in the Conference League qualifiers without Eze, but the first Premier League game without Eze, and they still looked pretty good. Devene came in as the starter instead. He's 4.5 also, like they have another 4.5. We have another 4.5 starting midfielder in the game. But Palace looked the better team early on. They actually took the lead as well with Sarr scoring the goal, Munoz assist. Some pretty like decently owned FPL assets in general there from Palace, but they looked pretty good early on. All of their main assets looked pretty good defensively also. Like Lacroix got the defensive contribution points, which you expect from him because that's why he's 5.0, because he is pretty good at defensive contributions. Munoz got the assist, but actually Mitchell was the more offensive player in this game compared, like if you compare the 2 fullbacks. Yeah. Palace looked good, took the lead, looked really good. Well, Eze didn't really create like too much, but they had some decent chances to score and were the better side in the first half especially. But Don Ndoye is someone that you should take note of. He's been amazing so far. Scored a goal in the first game week against Brentford. Had the wonderful assist in game week 2. You really should watch it if you haven't seen it already. Gets the ball in midfield. Basically does like a touch, like it does like a sombrero, like takes a touch over a midfielder from Palace, and then just passes it straight away in behind the lines to Hudson-Odoi, who manages to score. Pretty bad for Henderson, I think, who's usually like a slow starter. He has a couple bad games to start the season, usually Henderson, and could have done better for the goal there. But good goal from Hudson-Odoi. Chris Wood was closing in the middle of the box as well, so he could have had the pass from Hudson-Odoi if he was a bit quicker, but he wasn't ready in time. Wood, who is still a good option, of course. Blanking game week 2 after having that huge haul in game week 1, he's a really good option, especially against West Ham next game week. I think Forest is going to be good. But Dan N'Doye, I think he's someone to take note of from Nottingham Forest. He looks really good. Also, a lot of new signings for Nottingham Forest in general. Douglas Luiz is the most known for FPL managers, but they have Colin Moendo. They have Igor Jesus, who came on and looked like a very different striker than Wood. He is someone that you can play in behind. So I think Nottingham Forest, I think their new players is going to change a bit how they look in general as a team. They are like trying to take another step now after having such a great season last season, where they basically defended really well and scored and won a lot of 1-0 games. I feel like they have obviously strengthened their depth just because they are going to be in the Europa League this season, but also just because they want to push on and be a better team in the Premier League. So a lot of new signings, which I think is going to be a bit of a like interesting thing when it comes to the assets you already have from Nottingham Forest. We have Douglas Luiz, who is potentially taking free kicks and corners away from Elliot Anderson, who was once again one defensive contribution away from having DEFCON points. So really unlucky for anyone with Elliot Anderson hoping for defensive contribution numbers. He's gotten 11 defensive contributions 2 games in a row. And now I think it's going to be more difficult for him with Douglas Luiz there, who takes a lot of ball recoveries potentially from Elliot Anderson, and also takes potentially free kicks and set pieces in general from Elliot Anderson as well. So I think Anderson might not be the FPL prospect, but Douglas Luiz in his own right is 5.0, so he might be a good asset for that price. He could take penalties away from Chris Wood also, but I don't think so. I think Chris Wood is going to keep taking them. He's the main striker. He needs to score and be in good form, so I think he's going to still be on penalties. But yeah, it's just interesting. But yeah, Igor Jesus coming in, he's going to take some minutes from Wood. He is a bit of a different striker. If they need someone to threaten, like if they're in the lead, I think he could come on and be sort of more who runs the channels and stretches the field basically for Nottingham Forest rather than Wood. But they do have Hudson-Odoi, they do have Dan N'Doye as well, so they do have some speed to combat or be really good on the counter in general. But yeah, just the new signings. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Nottingham Forest. I'm not quite sure how they're going to look. A lot of new interesting players in general. McAtee from City, Colin Moendo, Douglas Luiz. Omari Hutchinson also, who had a pretty good chance. He's someone that looked pretty good for Ipswich last season. So a lot of new players, and that's why I'm sort of like a bit like low-key, like not as interested in N'Doye and Hudson-Odoi as I could have been, because the last season we had Elanga and Hudson-Odoi who were basically nailed on to play every game, but now they have so much more depth, so I don't really know what the playing time, and especially like being subbed off early could be the case, which was the case this game for both N'Doye and Hudson-Odoi. So yeah, but Dan N'Doye, really good underrated player in general. He's someone that a lot of people will notice later on in the season, and for 6.0 in FPL I think is a really good price if he can nail down that spot at the right wing for Forest. But so far so good. 1 goal, 1 beautiful assist that you really should check out. But Nottingham Forest, just interesting how the team, how they're setting up this season, how it might affect them. Also, haven't mentioned that defensive contributions, no defensive contributions for any of the defenders for Nottingham Forest, not even Anderson, who got the 11, but also like Murillo and Milenkovic have looked a lot worse for defensive contribution numbers this season so far in 2 games. It's a really small sample size. We can't really say things like basically make statements of truth already in terms of defensive contributions for the Nottingham Forest defenders, but I do fear that they're not going to be as good defensive in terms of defensive contribution numbers this season, because they're going to have a bit of a different playing style and have other players that will affect their team. So yeah, Murillo, I wouldn't sell him because they do have amazing fixtures in Game Week 4 and 5, Nottingham Forest, and Game Week 5 and 6, but also in Game Week 3 against West Ham, they have really amazing fixtures. So I would keep those assets, but I think long term, I don't think Murillo is going to be the same defensive contribution monster that it was last season. And I think Milinkovic is going to struggle a bit more in that regard as well. But Milinkovic is more of a goal scorer, as we saw last season, which could really come into play in Game Week 3 against West Ham. He is someone that is firmly in my free hit squad for Game Week 3 because I think he's going to score 1 or maybe 2 goals against West Ham's corner defense because that is awful. Wood as well. He's going to be in my free hit team for Game Week 3. Because he's someone that could score a couple goals in the box against West Ham in that game also. So yeah, that was Palace against Nottingham Forest. Let's move on to Everton against Brighton. Everton, I spoke about how Nottingham Forest are like sort of new look with the new signings. Everton with Grealish coming in. They started Tierno Barry over Beto this game because Beto was awful in that first game. Everton in general were awful against Leeds. Not really encouraging at all. But in this game, they looked a lot better going forward with Grealish especially. He looks amazing, 6.5 in FPL. He's definitely going to be an option this season. Had 2 assists, a beautiful first assist to Ndiaye. Second assist was more lucky, just passed it to... Garner, who scored the goal. Garner also got 17 defensive contribution points, not points, defensive contributions, which made him get 2 defensive contribution points. So he's someone that also could be good potentially. But yeah, I think the main people, Dewsbury Hall is still also like a decent option at 5.0. He played offensively most of this game. And is still a good option, but now with Ndiaye coming in, they also have Tyler Dibbling coming in as well. So I think Ndiaye, Grealish, and Dibbling will be the 3 guys playing the closest to the striker, which is looking likely to be Tierno Barry currently at 6.5. So I think that's going to be the starting attack for Everton. I think Dewsbury Hall is going to be playing more centrally in midfield instead, rather than the attacking midfield role. But yeah, Grealish looked amazing. Ndiaye scored as well in the first goal this game. So he looked good. He's on penalties also, but he got subbed off a bit early. It was because he took a knock apparently, but also with all the new attacking talents there, he might not be as nailed going forward because they have a lot of good options. Not only Grealish, Ndiaye, and now Dibbling, they also have Carlos Alcaraz, who looked really amazing last season, Dwight McNeil, who's really good, and Dewsbury Hall can also play in that attacking line. So a lot of good options for Everton going forward, and they looked a lot better this game week, especially going forward. Defensively, maybe not so much. As you can see from the expected goals for Brighton, 2.43 expected goals. They really should have scored this game. Some of that is the penalty that they got, another handball penalty against Everton, Dewsbury Hall this time around, and this time I think it actually was a penalty. The first game week I thought it was a bit harsh against Tarkowski. This week I think it was a penalty with Dewsbury Hall coming up with his arm above his head, so I think it was like the right call. But Welbeck, actually written Welbeck back to stink it up in the main takeaway because he was really awful in this game. He missed the penalty, really awful penalty as well. When you consider he's up against Pickford, who we know has written down every single potential penalty taker on his bottle and how they usually shoot it, you need to put it with power to score against Pickford because he basically knows where you're going to shoot it, so you have to put some power into it. But Welbeck, just a really bad penalty. He took the penalty over O'Reilly, who started the game. O'Reilly took a penalty in the first game week and scored. Welbeck took a penalty this game week and just completely missed it. Welbeck was back into the side now with Jorginho Rutter out with an injury, and I think that was like the major drawback for Brighton because Welbeck did not look at his best this game at all. He missed the penalty, had another huge chance that he missed. Welbeck just had a really poor game in general, but Brighton had several good chances. They were also gifted a chance by Tarkowski, who I'm going to get to when it comes to the defensive contribution numbers, but Tarkowski basically passed it back, and O'Reilly was actually there to snap it up. O'Reilly is someone that is really interesting at 5.5. Probably now on penalties with Welbeck missing it if he stays with Brighton and doesn't go to Juventus before the transfer deadline. But yeah, for 5.5 he's interesting. Got a huge chance just gifted to him from Tarkowski, but he missed it alone with the goalkeeper Pickford. You have to just give him props as well with both the penalty save but also the save from the O'Reilly shot. Pickford is still an amazing goalkeeper. I did have a discussion with my podcast co-host Kevin about who's the better goalkeeper, Raya or Pickford. And this game week, Pickford did give me some second thoughts about that, at least, even though I still back Raya as the better goalkeeper. But Pickford, amazing, 15 points in FPL with the penalty save, the clean sheet, several saves on top of that. Just an outstanding performance from him. Helped the Everton keep a clean sheet, and Everton offensively looked a lot better with Grealish, especially in the team. Tarkowski, 11 defensive contributions. So you got the defensive contribution points. I think he's still an amazing defensive contributions type of player, as we saw last season. I don't think, like Nottingham Forest, I don't think it's going to be the same as them. I think Everton are going to be really good for defensive contributions this season, as you can see from the people getting defensive contribution points this game week. Garner with 17 defensive contributions, Keane as well with 13, and Tarkowski with 11. So yeah. Also, have to mention, of course, as I've written in the main takeaway, goodbye Goodison Park, and hello, or Hill Dickinson. I don't know if that works. Hello Dickinson. But yeah, new stadium, really interesting stadium as well. Really compact. Like, you usually see new stadiums and you're far away from the pitch. It's not really that intimate, but Everton have actually done a really good job with their new stadium. Like, their fans are like on top of things, and yeah, the crowd was like raucous for this match in general. Really helped Everton along the new players up front. So Everton looked a lot better this game week, especially going forward. So yeah, Everton, a lot of interesting assets. I think Ndiaye is still really viable if you have him. I would not go like sideways to Grealish, but I think Grealish might be the better pick for the entirety of the season eventually. But yeah, Ndiaye is on penalties, and they probably get a lot more penalties now with the attacking options that they do have, the more dynamic attack that they will have with Barry up front rather than Beto also. So yeah, some interesting things with this game. Brighton had some good chances, not even beyond the chances that I did mention already. They had some good chances. Minte, you can see there, 0.63 non-penalty expected goal moment. He looked really good and lively once again, so he's another asset that you could consider. So both Brighton and Everton have some really interesting players in general. They should take note of. Also, when it comes to defensive contribution numbers, Reefer, second game week in a row, he gets defensive contribution numbers. He's really good for that, but I think there are more interesting assets than Reefer, who's going to get 4 points at most game weeks because he doesn't really score or assist in general. But yeah, that was the game between Everton and Brighton. Let's move on to the next game, which is between Fulham and Manchester United. A lot of people have sort of, in my opinion, overreacted a bit here. Man United got a lot of plaudits after the first game week. Despite losing to Arsenal, they looked really good with the new signings, Cunha and Mbeumo and those guys. This time around, they play away to Fulham, which is a tough game. Like, it's tougher than most people expect. Yes, Fulham haven't signed any players. Yes, they don't have like the major names in their squad, but they're still a really solid team under Marco Silva. So yeah, the draw here made a lot of people just go a bit crazy for Man United and say that it's like they're awful. Amorim has to be sacked. He's been terrible, and which is sort of true. He has been awful as the manager so far, getting like less than a point per game for Man United, which is crazy. I would not expect to say that like 10 years ago or 15 years ago under the prime of Ferguson, or not even the prime, but like the late prime of Ferguson as the manager. But yeah, Man United, a lot of people have been really down on Man United after this game, but I think they actually had several good chances to score in this game as well. They didn't really create too much, but Cunha early on had some really good chances. A really good save by Leno. Had another shot that hit the post. Cunha, he looked really good and lively once again. Cunha and Mbeumo looked pretty good in general. And Mbeumo had 2 almost assists. The goal from Man United from Leno Yoro, or technically it was an own goal in the end. That was a corner from Mbeumo, perfectly set up for Yoro to score. He missed it a little bit with his header, but the ball went into Rodrigo Muniz and into the goal. So an own goal for Muniz, assist for Leno Yoro in FPL. We're really close to an assist for Mbeumo, who also was really close to another assist, or a second potential assist right at the end of the game when Maguire had a really good heading chance from the same area, basically, after a corner from Man United. Corners are really interesting in general in this game. Fulham had like a couple corners, I think 7. There was like a post-game interview with Sander Berge from Norway. I watched it on Norwegian television, and he was talking about how like they expected to score on every corner, basically, because Man United still have a goalkeeper problem. They have Altay Bayindir in goal, and on corners especially, he looks really susceptible to concede. First game week against Arsenal, he was at fault for the goal that Arsenal scored, and this time around he had several like really dangerous instances where he really could have conceded. But we also have to give some props to Bayindir. He had a really nice save from Josh King getting through, actually, the 4.5 midfielder at Fulham. He went through behind the lines of Man United, had a really good chance, but Altay Bayindir was really quick to get out and save the chance from King. And right after that, he picks out a beautiful pass to Cunha. Could have been an assist for Altay, the goalkeeper from Man United. So we have to give him some props, but when it comes to corners, he looks awful. So I think Man United can concede more goals from set pieces, but I do think they look pretty good in general. But yeah, the main thing from this game for Man United, though, is the penalty situation with Bruno Fernandes, because that was just really bizarre, as I've written there in the main takeaway, bizarre Bruno botch, because He lined up to take a penalty. The ref, Chris Kavanagh, I think it was basically just like going out of the box and like making sure that everyone was outside of the box as the penalty was being taken. So he moved out of the box at the same time as Fernandes, and they didn't really pay attention to each other, sort of bumped into each other, and Bruno, as he usually does, just complains and like was like, what's happening here, for no good reason, and spends another couple seconds with his penalty preparations. And if you know anything about like the studies into penalties and stuff, the longer time it takes between the penalty being awarded and penalty being taken, the more likely it is to be missed. And that's what happened. Bruno just like skied it over the bar, didn't even do his jump step, hop step type of thing that he usually does, because he's usually really good at penalties, but didn't do this time around. With Bernd Leno in goal, who has a pretty good penalty saving record, to be fair. But yeah, terrible penalty from Bruno, made all the more strange because of the incident before it. So anyone with Bruno in fantasy, after already a pretty bad game week for a lot of you guys, probably wasn't the best match to see that penalty just go sky high for Man United. But yeah, at least he got defensive contribution points this time. 13 defensive contributions from Fernandes. That's what you expect, because he does play really far back in the team, because Man United just have so many good assets going forward. They play Mason Mount there as well. They have Mbeumo Kun, obviously, who they brought in. Amad Diallo has to play right back, even though he is also better in those positions. So there's just a lot of competition for the places right behind the striker there. So I think Fernandes is going to be playing more centrally this season, and that's going to hamper his abilities to score points from goals and assists. But we'll see. I think the next game against Burnley is going to be really interesting with Fernandes. Is he going to be allowed to move a bit further up when they play at home against a pretty weak side? That's usually when Bruno Fernandes is at his best. I captained him twice last season against Leicester and got like 17 points from each of the occasions. So for me, I have a lot of good moments with Fernandes as a Premier League or FPL player. But a lot of people who started the season with them aren't feeling the same luck so far, basically, with the penalty miss especially. That's like a huge swing. I think it's like 12 points put together, and especially if 12 points put together with like goal and bonus and all that stuff, and no penalty miss. So that's really interesting. But also it is interesting for like penalty taking going forward. I'm not sure if Bruno Fernandes is going to be on pens. I assume he will be, but I think it's like kind of 50-50 in my mind. Because we have Mbeumo and Cunha, who are both decent penalty takers who took penalties for their teams. I do expect Mbeumo to be next in line if Bruno's not ready to take them anymore. But yeah, I think he might be off penalties as well. Like, I've seen people say that he's most likely going to be on penalties still, but I remember back in like the 2021 season, I think, when Cristiano Ronaldo was back at Man United, Bruno Fernandes was the main penalty taker before Cristiano came back, and he took the first penalty, Bruno Fernandes, but pretty similarly to what he did against Fulham this time. He played against Aston Villa, I think, back then. He just skied the penalty again back then and completely missed it. So, and then the next two penalties, Ronaldo or Cristiano Ronaldo actually took them for Man United and scored, I think. And then Bruno got another penalty chance with Cristiano Ronaldo on the pitch later on in the season. So I think sort of switched back and forth a little bit. But he took it again and missed once again, and Cristiano took another penalty to end the season in that 2021 season, I think it was. So yeah, I'm not sure if Bruno Fernandes is the penalty taker anymore. I think at least it is enough for me to be put off by Fernandes for Game Week 3 free hit. I've been like contemplating who do I have out of Cunha and Mbeumo and Fernandes, because I do really want to have Dorgu, who once again looked pretty attacking. Was close to like wasn't close to getting an assist, but close to getting like a pre-assist, because he was really attacking for the Cunha post shot. But yeah, I'm not sure when it comes to penalties if Bruno's going to be on them or not. I'm kind of 50-50. It could easily be Mbeumo, could be Cunha potentially. So I'm probably going to lean towards having Cunha and Mbeumo both, rather than having Fernandes for my free hit in Game Week 3. But yeah, interesting Bruno things in general. He is still not like done as an FPL asset. I think he's going to be more viable, especially next game against Burnley. So I think if you have him, by no means sell him for Game Week 3, because that's a huge, amazing game week for him against Burnley. But after that, you could potentially look to sell him, because Man United don't have the best fixtures going forward after Game Week 3. So yeah, interesting in general. Also, a final point when it comes to Fulham, as the main takeaway there. Joachim Andersen with his second half defensive contribution points. After the first half, he had 0 defensive contributions, Joachim Andersen. And I wrote to my podcast co-host Kevin, just like, he's a fraud, I'm going to sell him. And then second half, they did concede against Lenioro, but he did get 11 defensive contributions in the second half alone. And we sort of saw the same thing in the first game for Fulham. Didn't really have that many defensive contributions in the first half, and then got a lot of them in the second half. So it was really close to getting defensive contributions that game as well. So Anderson, I still think he is good for defensive contributions. Got 4 points in total for this game. That's what you're hoping for with this defensive contribution monsters that you pick defensively. And he helped me get some extra points with that in this game. So yeah, that was Fulham against Man United. Let's move on to the next game, and which is the last game, luckily, because this has been almost an hour of me talking about Game Week 2. It's a struggle for me to keep it short because there's so many things to talk about, especially this early in the season. There's just so many things to take note of. And this game was kind of crazy in general. As usual with Liverpool, we saw that last game week against Bournemouth in the first game of the season, 4-2 for Liverpool there, again, where they had the lead 2-0 and it became 2-2, and then Liverpool got a late goal. And they followed that same procedure this game with a really late goal, like 100 minutes into the game with 11 minutes added on in the second half. They scored with Rio Ngumuha, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who's turning 17 like in a couple days now. I think 29th of August he's turning 17, so he's really young. Was really promising in preseason, looked really good. So both him and Max Daumann, those are two players that you will see a lot of going forward in both in the Premier League and in FPL. They're going to be really good FPL options eventually, but he scored the winning goal for Liverpool in the end in a crazy game where just a lot of things happened. Let's just start from the front really. Newcastle obviously really up for this game with the whole Alexander Isak thing hanging in the balance. He wants to force a move from Newcastle to Liverpool. And ironically, if he had played in this game, Newcastle most likely would have won this because they really needed that main striker. Gordon has missed a lot of his chances as a striker, which Isak would have easily scored. They are really missing Isak. So yeah, he's really doing Newcastle a disservice by staying out because they probably would have beaten Liverpool in this game and probably would have beaten Aston Villa in the first game week as well. They would have ended up with 6 points, but now they only have 1 point after 2 game weeks, which is pretty bad luck for Newcastle because they've looked pretty good in both games. Started the season, obviously, with a lot of fire. They had a lot of things to play for. They said so in the after game week 1 that this was going to be an interesting game regardless because of the circumstances. They were really up for it and had several chances to score. Didn't really get the finish off sometimes, which you can see reflected in the expected goal numbers, because if you don't shoot, you don't get expected goals. Expected goal numbers. So they had really good chances to score. Their midfield is still outstanding and we're really up for it. Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. Gordon was really up for it as well. He was super pumped for this game, as you could see, and as we'll see, it sort of took a downturn for him eventually. But to start this game, he was really looking good. Was really at it, involved in everything Newcastle did, was super central, had decent chances to score, was really close to getting the ball in perfectly in the box, but like a lot of the chances for Newcastle were like crosses where they didn't manage to take a shot. So you could look at the numbers, which is stupid. I think for a singular game, the expected goal numbers are kind of stupid, and say that, they didn't create much, but they did actually create a lot of chances. They just didn't get the shot off basically in this game. But yeah, Gordon looked really lively, was close to scoring a couple times, but he was a bit too lively because he was super overzealous and did a stupid challenge where, like, best case scenario, Liverpool get a throw in from that. But I think he was just like super hyped up, really wanted to pump up the Newcastle crowd as well for this game. But instead, he just barges into Van Dijk and hits him on the shin and like basically almost strips him of his sock, Van Dijk, with a really nasty tackle. So the third red card after the VAR review for Gordon, he had to be taken off. And Liverpool took advantage as well with the 2 goals that they had in before Newcastle managed to score. So yeah, Liverpool up 2-0. They scored the first goal from Gravenberch, which was against the run of play. That was before was that before or after the red card? I can't remember exactly. I think it was before the red card. Really nice shot from Gravenberch and really nice like camera angle with the ref cam also, just as a side note. But Gakpo assists, which should be noted. He is super involved. It seems like Liverpool, like people were saying in preseason, actually, which has turned out to be true. They've been more focused on the left-hand side with Gakpo and Ekitike sort of combining on that side rather than Salah, who's been struggling a bit, but also gotten punch returns, as we'll see as we come to the end of this match and this video basically. But Ekitike, not Ekitike, but Gravenberch got an assist. Not assist, man, I'm jumbled up now. Gakpo got an assist for Gravenberch, really nice shot from him. That was the first goal. Ekitike got a goal, another Gakpo assist for the second goal in the second half. Ekitike really took his shot well. He's been amazing so far. He's the highest scoring striker in the game because he had 2 really good games in a row now. And I really wish I had the foresight before the start of the season to see this, because I knew this Isak thing would drag on, and I knew that would mean that Ekitike would be the starting striker for Liverpool, and that is such a huge plus. So for Game Week 4, if Isak doesn't go to Liverpool in the end, Ekitike is going to be super popular to bring in for that game week against Burnley. He's going to be potentially like the best captaincy option for that game week, because Salah is still struggling. Ekitike is the more pronounced asset so far in FPL. But yeah, he took his goal really well, 2-0 for Liverpool. But then the game sort of shifted in the second half, with Newcastle down 1 man, down 2-0. Liverpool seemingly being able to cruise to an easy win, especially with 1 man more on the pitch. Newcastle just completely took over. They scored a goal, Bruno Guimaraes, or Joe Linton, sorry, from across from Livramento, scored the first goal. Second goal, Osula came on, looked really good. He's a 5.5 striker who is a really talented young player from Denmark who looks, it's really quick, really big and strong as well. He could be eventually the Isak replacement for Newcastle, but he looked really good. I would imagine he starts next game. Like, I think he looks exactly what they need, especially now with Gordon out as well. They don't really have any striker assets to play from there, Newcastle. So I think Osula has a good chance to start, especially after scoring the goal. He equalized 2-2, went behind the lines after a really long set piece from Newcastle. Pretty poor from Konate on the goal there. I think Konate has been a bit shaky to start the season, and Osula took advantage and scored there for Newcastle. But as always, Liverpool always finds a way, as I've written in the main takeaway there. Rio Ngumuha, which is his name, managed to score the winning goal in the end, and Salah again getting point returns in injury time. That is Salah time. That is Liverpool time. We've used to have Fergie time back in the day for Man United. Liverpool are sort of just taking over in general, taking over the total amount of trophies record for Man United. Potentially, if they win now, they're going to get one ahead, I think. And also, like, being the team that always scores towards the end of matches. Liverpool have not looked that good throughout 2 game weeks, but they managed to get 6 points out of it regardless, because they just find ways to win every single time, which is what winners do typically, usually anyways. But yeah, really well taken goal, really nicely played by Liverpool, link up play, goes out to Salah, passes it in inside the box for Szoboszlai, it seems like at first, but Szoboszlai, really good from him, just ran over, jumped over the ball, let it roll through to Rio Ngumuha, who scored beautifully for Liverpool fans especially, and celebrated, as you can see there, as the standout player pick. Celebrated the winning goal. A huge moment for the 16-year-old and his burgeoning career in the Premier League and in FPL. 4.5 should be noted. I don't think he's going to get that much playing time, because Liverpool just have so many good attacking assets even before they potentially add Isak. So I think that was interesting. But yeah, they pretty much get Isak now, right? Like, that's the price of the game. They get to get Isak. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But that will be a huge thing in terms of FPL. Isak will have to play himself back into form, basically. So I think Ekitike is going to be amazing still for Game Week 3, for Game Week 4, potentially even Game Week 5 as well against Everton at home. So he looks like a really good prospect, and you could go there potentially if you want to. But especially if you want to wait a week, they do have Arsenal now in the next game week. That's going to be a tough match. And then Game Week 4 is going to be after the transfer deadline, where we'll know for sure if Ekitike is going to be the starting striker, or if he's going to be more like a bit part player on the left, which could also affect Gakpo, with Isak coming in, Isak as the main striker. But yeah, Ekitike, I think Game Week 4, even if Isak is brought in, he's probably going to play against Burnley. He might even play against Everton too as a striker, because he's looked amazing so far. I don't really know why they would go for Isak for so much money, because Ekitike looks the part for sure up front. He's been amazing and hasn't had the Frankfurt striker curse that a lot of other Frankfurt strikers have had, including potentially Marmoush, who now has struggled a bit. But yeah, Marmoush is going to come good as well, I think, eventually this season. But yeah. Final thing, also defensive contributions, hadn't mentioned that for this game. Burn got 12 for Newcastle. Fabian Schär as well, I wanted to mention that. He is someone that I have considered for a free hit in Game Week 3. He could also potentially be on penalties now with Gordon out, because Gordon is the penalty taker after Isak. Isak is not there, obviously. He's not going to play in Game Week 3 either. And the next penalty taker might be Fabian Schär if he's ready to play, because he had to be subbed off with an injury from this game also. So yeah, he's the one that is a really good Game Week 3 potential player if you're free hitting like me, but we have to make sure that he's ready to play first, because they do have Malik Thiaw as well, who can step up and be the starting center back next to Dan Burn, who got the defensive contribution points this time. Dan Burn with 12. Van Dijk again, 15 defensive contribution points, defensive contributions in total this game, which means that he got another 2 defensive contribution points for the second game in a row for Liverpool. I don't think that's going to be a regular occurrence. I think it's just down to the game state of both matches, where Liverpool have had to defend against teams that have like really gone for it and tried to score and managed to score a couple goals against Liverpool. So yeah, no clean sheet again for Van Dijk. He did get defensive contribution points at least, but also got a -1 for conceding 2 goals once again. So Liverpool defense not looking the best, especially with Frimpong injured and Van Dijk getting defensive contribution numbers, but I don't think he's going to get that when he's getting closer to clean sheets. Yeah, interesting in that regard also. But yeah, that has been me talking for over an hour about FPL and Premier League and this past game week. 10 matches, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things that I haven't even talked about in this video either. So I hope you got a lot of value or some value from this video. Last time I did this, I got like a negative comment, which is like, this is useless, no good information. So hopefully I haven't spent an hour talking about nothing of value for you. So if you made it all the way through, thank you very much. Have had a lot of success with this YouTube channel lately, at least for my small ambitions so far. Got a lot of views on the free hit video, so thank you for that. Also, I'm gonna have a wildcard video for you tomorrow. Then I'm actually gonna travel to England, and I'm gonna try to make some videos with Kevin there, because he's also free hitting for Game Week 3 most likely. So for the FPL Scope podcast, we'll both discuss the free hit potential in Game Week 3, and also everything else that has happened in terms of FPL. So stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this video, but now I really need to wrap it up with 1 minute and 5 seconds, or 1 minute and 5 seconds, 1 hour and 5 minutes into this video, as you can tell from me mumbling around as I usually do. So thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.